roll in questions to get a little more direct. But yeah, like I tell people all the time, like this is our first time meeting. I think that's cool to kind of showcase behind the content. So I did kind of want to start there. Like is this your first podcast you've done?
The first one was with Sam. So I don't know. I don't know if you heard that one actually.
I probably should have listened to. I actually did listen to the first part of it when it first came out, and I thought that was super cool. So I wanted to see what that dynamic was like. Talk to me about that experience a little bit, because Sam is your girlfriend, and she's got a podcast, Lifestyle Redesign. Yeah, take me through what was that like to be like interviewed by someone you like care about so much. Like that's so.
Like the first time that we did it, it took like we went on recording for like 2 hours. So like we were like, okay, we need to like do this again. Like afterwards, because this is taking too long and we're not actually talking about anything. Like it became like too much of a conversation and not really like the podcast anymore. So then we re-recorded it, and then the second time it came out like fantastic. So cool. It was like really cool to like be on a podcast for the first time too.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Now currently, are you in school, or are you all business right now?
Nah, yeah, I'm all business right now because I graduated in May of last year.
Okay, same. Very cool. Yeah, nice. And any inclination, like straight, are you working another job next to the brand right now?
I mean, I'm like designing for other brands, so I'm like kind of taking like inquiries of like for both like flyers, let's say like design like in general, but also like clothing brands. Like I really want to help like clothing brands like design essentially, because like I like designing for my own stuff, but I feel like it'd give me more experience to design for other people too, like see. Like bounce ideas off other people and things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do the same thing on the sales side. Like I tell people, I have my agency, but then there's also a higher ticket offer, and I help them close deals. And it's the same. Like I just want to be around people that are doing this, because it's only going to help your brand in the long run. And that's really like we'll get into the business side of things, but especially in the fashion, the design game, I feel like having a long-term outlook on it is so key. Like you're not just gonna launch something and everyone's gonna love it.
No, exactly. Like this is a 2-year out business. Like I'm looking for spring of next year at this point. Like I'm not even like thinking about this spring anymore.
Okay, and that is for God's Tier.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, like, I have to like start design. Yeah, I have to start designing like now in order for anything to come out like next year. So you're kind of having to predict trends before they actually happen, but like there's nothing to gauge it off of because the trend hasn't happened yet.
Right. Okay.
But what's difficult is that you also want to make sure that you're in line with everything else that's going on, because like you can't be necessarily inspired. Like it has to be timeless. Like you can't be inspired now and then have it released 2 years from now, because then that time passed. And especially because things are coming and going so much faster, like trends now, it's like you have to like act on them as soon as you think of it. So that's like that's just been like super difficult, but I mean I'm getting a lot better now.
Yeah, that's good. And where do you kind of look for, like you said, I know it's difficult to identify, is it people you look to? Is it just things that you observe just like in your daily life that kind of inspire you? That's a good question. Like where does your inspiration for the stuff you design come out from?
A lot of times it's just kind of like what I'm doing like day to day. Like I want to say like 2 years ago now, I was like really inspired by like just being outside in like nature. So like now the things that's coming up this summer is going to be based on it. So like I started designing it back then. So like it's like, I want to like design towards like timeless things again, like I just said. But the inspirations come from like literally anything that I'm doing. So like if I'm going hiking constantly, I'm going to design something based on like hiking kind of, but like less niche. And then just like different things that I see, like different places. Like I could see like, let's say this like tree or something like that, put that into a design some way, and then like go from there and then create a collection off of that.
Very cool. And now currently, just kind of bring everyone up to speed, you have God's Tier. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Where did that inspiration come from? And kind of take me through what the experience has been like launching that. Because the website is launched. I saw, products are on there. Super cool intro video, by the way. That's super dope. Like showcasing. It was very well put together. But yeah, talk to me about God's Tier a little bit.
Yeah, I started it in I launched my first product in 2021, but I actually like started building it, like the brand, in 2020, like over the pandemic, like throughout it. I really wanted to create things that felt like me, but also told a story like throughout every single like piece. So like every collection that I do always has a story tied to it that leads to the bigger story of getting to God's tier, like the process up until that point. So like the first one was a work of art, just getting started. Like that was the collection about like literally just get started. And then the second one was like kind of looking back and giving back to people that like, help you on the way. And then the next one, I want it to be the perfect storm. That's what I'm calling it. It's kind of like going through like your trials and tribulations. Like, that's where you're going to be in the process at some point. So trying to navigate that, like I want to talk about that, like through the clothing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So like I want to so like the overall theme of the brand is the process. And then throughout each collection is getting to God's tier through the process.
Yeah. Like each like level or like stage of it. Very cool. Okay. Yeah. I like that. That's super interesting. It's always fascinating because like when you first look at it, it takes time. Like you got to see each,
right.
Like now, and I like hearing you say that because now I hope everyone that also hears that, like you're gonna pay more attention to the details. Like I do the same thing with music. Like when I've watched like an artist go on a podcast and then they drop an album, I'm always like, oh wow,
you just look at it so differently.
Yeah, it all really connects, but type buy people in. So take me through what the kind of the start was. And here's like a kind of a unique question. Like if you were to start in 2023, what would you do differently compared to, you said 2020, you got rolling with God's tier? Yeah.
I'm kind of going through it right now, actually. Like I'm sort of rebranding a little bit and kind of finding like the values in the brand. I think that's what I would start over, which is kind of what I'm doing exactly right now. I would think about the pain points and why I want to create this brand and like what I'm actually giving value to. Like what is the like what am I solving like for people? But then I'd also focus on how can I like make it better? Like why would people buy into this as opposed to something else? Like why would I put the same thing that's already out again? Like that just doesn't make sense. So I would find a way to create value first, like, ask questions, like, find people, like what people want, find what they value, and then create that, like fill that market by creating what they need, essentially. And I mean, that's what they'll tell you any business course anyways. So I'm just like kind of going through that again.
And I will say, and there's definitely a lot of truth to that. And there's also a ton of truth in the authenticity behind it. So that's why I love like the path you kind of have with God's tier. Like it's like your perception of it, and you can't have that little bit of like, like need and what the market wants, but also what's the market feeling, right? Like, and what's your perception of that is like a great way. I think you're naturally going across that. So that's gonna be super cool.
And I mean, I would also spend less money, especially because like, I mean, like that's part of like the learning curve is just like you try things, and now I know like what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and what I want to make a big point about there is there's so many people that are afraid to even try, and it's like you're gonna have to make those same mistakes, or you're gonna have to expose yourself to people who can help you navigate those mistakes. I don't want to say skip them. You're probably just gonna have them at a different level, but again. But there's a lot of people that won't do either. They'll be like, oh, I want to launch the next great clothing brand, but I'm not going to watch people who are already starting it. And a big thing they do is they go right to the people that are at the top, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, and a point of my podcast has really been showcase more people in the process, observe those people, and have that good balance. Balance the people who are a couple steps ahead of you, and then also, okay, what could I avoid?
And I found out too, like myself, that comparison is like a dangerous game because they've been doing this for like 10 years. Like you can't start from their 10-year like past. Like it doesn't make sense. So like that's just like something you have to like really be conscious of too, because it's just tough. Like you see, especially with social media now, like you see all these like all the people like doing things already, and then you think that they blew up overnight when really it's been 10 years of them doing it.
Yep. And now with short form, you're just seeing them every day. So you think it's like, oh my God, they're like people honestly probably think I work like 20 hours a day just because like I have people posting content on a bunch of different accounts. I'm like, it's not like, again, like, yes, we work hard. Yes, whatever. But because that's what it is, but that's all your and when everyone around you is I don't want to say program, but anyway, thinking along those same lines, it's tough to break out of it. So I'm curious, like, how have you been able to really like play the long-term game with your business when I'm sure there's all this outside pressure, like, or that you may or may not feel that people may like implement, like how do you navigate the noise, I guess would be the best way to
Oh man,
phrase that.
that's a really good question. I try to at least remember, which is why I'm creating my value system again, like to go back to it like every single time. Like, what is the goal here? Like, that is what I keep on trying to think about. And even living back in Chicago, like, there was something going on every single weekend. And I'm thinking, like, why am I not out there right now? Like, I think that constantly. But I mean, it's just a lot of staying grounded, like, staying focused, like, on what I want, like, see for myself. And like a lot of podcasts that I listen to too talk about delayed gratification, like really is something serious these days because everybody wants things right now. And I'm trying to like tell myself to like wait, like do the work right now and then it'll come. Like stay consistent and it'll come. I keep on trying to tell myself that.
Yeah, no, I feel you. We're in very very similar boat, like I said, and those feelings never really are going to go away. Like I definitely do. I feel like I've leveled up in the last year. Yes. Do I feel like, but do I still have the same thoughts I had a year ago? Yeah, because now there's more things that you want to get to, and there's still certain holes that I know I have to get better at, and like that you're just reminded of constantly. But they only get worse when you just call it analysis paralysis, right? Like you just kind of get to a stage and you're like, like, do I really want to make all these small decisions? But it's the most important thing.
But then you look back too, like the best time to like actually be able to see how much you've done is when you look back at the past year and you're like, oh my god, like that's what I thought was good back then. Like that was horrible. Like when you compare it to your work now.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, how do you approach design? Like, how do you go about designing products for like, is there different audiences you try to target? Is there a specific audience you kind of go for? I guess who is your customer profile with God's Dicks?
See, that was like a big thing too, is because you want it to be a certain person, but it doesn't happen. Like it doesn't always happen that way. So like my demographic right now, is like the city kid that has a lot of disposable money is what I've like seen. But I thought it would be less, like a little bit less city, but people that like kind of save up for it a little bit more. Whereas like it's the kind of the opposite a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
But,
what's a common trait they have, you'd say?
I actually have no idea. Cause I feel like they're all so different in like weird ways too. Cause like I like meet people like at all different places. Like I met people in Chicago that like, really liked it. Met people in Boston, but like they've all been like kind of different, like a lot of ways.
Yeah. And what do you think as far as like obviously just building it over the last almost 3 years now, like what's the best way, what's been the best method for you as far as getting the name out there?
For me, it's been pop-ups, but
cool.
I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if it's because I haven't done enough marketing on social media that pop-ups have worked so well, but I also think that because I feel like my quality is better than most brands starting out, that's the reason why like people gravitate towards it too, like more so like in person because they can feel it and feel the difference.
Yes, I agree. So I think that's a good point. That's a really good point about clothes in general. I've never been the type to like buy a bulk ton of stuff online because I'm like, I need to go into Tilly's to see how that stuff fits.
Exactly. You know? And that, right? Like, right.
Yeah, like, I need to go into the Paxsons of the world and like actually feel this.
And then like try it on too. Yeah.
Yeah, try it on. So I like that pop-ups. Now, there's a lot of brands that watch this. Obviously, in my early days, I hosted a lot of kids in my high school that were launching clothing brands. One of them's done really well, called Ultra Rare. And his whole brand started because he entered like a contest, and like it was a cool story. But for those that are in the game already, how can they get involved with pop-ups, and like what's your experience been with them?
I've gotten lucky a lot. It's tough because some places like it depends on what your brand stands for. Like I personally don't want to be at the markets, like the farmers markets types of things, because like that's just not what my brand like is. Like I don't want it to like be associated with that. So I kind of I want it to be alone most of the time, like in a standalone place. So like I had a pop-up in Chicago, like on a rooftop. And like most people like that went were like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, and that's the reaction that I like, because I like to build a story around the pop-up. Then I had like 2 pop-ups at UMass Boston, like as a standalone again, because it gave me the most space like for it. So I'd say like you just have to reach out to places and see who will let you do it, because you'll get a lot of no's before you get a yes. Because like
Yeah, no,
some places want to hear the benefit for them too. That's the biggest
that's
thing.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, volume negates luck. It's like a thing I tell my sales team, thing I tell everybody on the podcast, right? They go hand in hand. Like volume
Exactly.
negates luck. But a big piece of it is having confidence in your product to actually put it in front of these
Exactly.
people. Like you
Exactly.
don't want to hold anyone back, but you also don't place your product in environments that they don't fit in. Because it's like
Exactly.
that's the level of awareness you need to have. If you pump the
Exactly.
right place with the right product enough
Mhm.
times, yes, you will see the success. If you don't want to do the work to find out where your stuff fits or trial and error, like go see what works, then that's you not doing the work, and you're not gonna you don't
Exactly.
see the success
Exactly.
of
Yeah,
it.
it's just a lot of research too, because you're not gonna put
Cool.
$100 T-shirt around $20 jewelry. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, can you tell me the story with the rooftop one? Like you said, or like
Yeah.
what was the
Yeah.
story you were trying to? Yeah, how did it come together? And
Uh
then what
huh.
was the story you were trying to tell at it?
Yeah. Yeah. So going way further back to like February, the pop-up was in August. Back in like
Okay,
February, I reached out to my school, Loyola Chicago,
cool.
about doing the pop-up in the school, because I knew nobody's ever done it, because I've been there. Like, I obviously went to school there. And then I got to like all these different levels of like people. And then I finally got to the dean, and then she just kept on shutting it down. So I just kind of like kept on going, kept on working, finding new places. And then I kind of slept on the idea a little bit, like of a pop up, because I was developing the entire collection at that point. Like the idea like switched a little bit. So come like July, and well, it kept on getting moved back actually. So come July, I'm like getting ready to like launch everything. I wanted to do a fashion show now, like in the middle of the street, like a pop up fashion show essentially, and then a pop up right after that, like where they can shop what they just saw. So this idea got pushed back so many times, because there was this one company that I was going to work with for it. And then last minute they were like, oh no, we can't do it. Like the day before it was supposed to happen, they said, no, we can't do it. So I switched the idea to something else. Like, and then I had to keep on moving back the dates. So this was in July. So come August time, now I'm planning on doing the pop-up again. So I got like a bunch of people, a bunch of like my friends and stuff, to like just like I had to find the sizing for them, like of the products that I was going to show, and then have them like practice like walking like on the street, like not really paying attention to the people walking around them, because obviously it's like nobody's expecting it to happen. Then I set up an
Yeah,
Eventbrite for it, like ran an ad, like had like a lot of people show up. So then they did that, like they went around, and then the cops came like right after that, and then we all like left. We just like not. I don't want to say we ran, but we just like
yeah,
left. Like we were just like, oh no, like what just happened over there, or something like
yeah.
that.
Weird.
And then I got in contact with this rooftop called Joy District, and I was like, oh, can I like do this? And then because they were like so cool, they were like, why not? Like like let's try and see how it goes. So like I had to pay for each ticket, like drink ticket, because it was like a rooftop, so like it was like a bar and stuff like that. So I
Yeah,
paid for like I created a guest list, and then people that like I invited got it, and then I paid for their first drink or something like that. So
gotcha.
that like increased the people, like the people coming in. But then there was also a party connected to that, like on the same rooftop. So there was like 500 people in total, like there on a
Oh
rooftop,
no,
and the capacity is like 200. So
nice.
so
It
then
was a separate
which is
party that just happened to be going
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gosh, nice.
He
Good,
told me
good job.
like the week before that there was going to be a party there, and I was like, okay, that's not bad.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So then the day of, it was supposed to rain, but it just held out. Like it rained for like probably like 3 minutes, and then it just stopped. Like right before we were supposed to like set up. So that looked out there. But overall that entire thing was just, it was a headache, but I'm glad that I made it work out.
Yeah. Then now take me through what it was like when it launched. Were you like what were you doing most of the time while the pop up was happening?
I was just talking to people. Like, they were like, oh my God, like I've never seen anything like this. Like, how do you get this here? like just all that
Cool.
stuff. And then people are just like inspired, like how I did it,
Yeah.
like, about the brand, like what's the brand like mean, like how did, like, I wish I could show like pictures of it, but yeah, like there was just like I put on like a rug and then like clothing racks and then like a sign, like a banner around it, and then had people like just like kind of around it. So like it was kind of like the center of like attention essentially. It was like the bar and then me.
Sweet.
So like that was like the two center points.
Hell yeah. And it takes, like I said, it takes so much confidence to do that. And I know that there's just so many people are like, oh, like, couldn't handle that. I'm like, well, you know what? Like, that's what you get through to get what you want, right? Like, those are the things that it'll come naturally now. I'm sure. That was your first one, or was that?
No, that was, I think it was the
third one.
Third
Yeah.
pop-up,
But like, again, and it comes together like that. Now there's 500 plus
exactly,
people.
right.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it naturally developed like that. Like, you wouldn't, if he had said go sell 500 tickets, who knows? But
right,
instead,
like seriously,
naturally, you got eyes, you got eyes,
right?
attention
Like that,
to it.
it's luck things, yeah.
Right, like pay attention to when those things happen, especially when they're towards things that you really enjoy doing. Because I've always tried to lean on that. I'm like, okay, you wouldn't be like going out to interview XYZ if you didn't do that. Like, pay attention. That wouldn't came together. So the best things are like they come together naturally, as I'm sure you've seen. And there's certainly an element to trusting that. And like with us being at such a young age, it's good we can kind of have that awareness. Like, I can sense it. You get it. That's what keeps you going, right? Like, it's not it's not gonna be the money. Like, in reality, even when I say you make like this, you go hard at it for 10 years, like you will see the financial benefits. But like even the people that you hear them at that level, and it's never like, not once are they really like, that was what was pushing them to get through. It was the little like alignment things.
Exactly, like the little wins, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest thing you have to think about too is just, it's not going to happen overnight, and like you have to be okay with that. Like, it's just tough. Sometimes it's tough, but you have to just get through the tough days and then like celebrate like the little wins that you get.
Yeah, take it a day at a time, because I think once you do that, you start recognizing the wins, and they do, like, the smaller wins feel a lot greater because you're not worried about tomorrow, you're not worried about next week. Like the biggest, like, as an overthinker, right? Like, we tend to struggle all the time with that. Like, I'm thinking a month ahead. Oh, what if this happens? Oh, when I plan this, like, but it's more the days when I'm just, I take each interview, let it go, do its thing. Like, I get so much more.
I'm the exact opposite. Like, I'm gonna just try it and then we'll see how it goes. If it sucks, all right, I'm killing. I'll send it.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Now, you said you have a career in design as well as launching your own brand, which I think goes so well together. Like you said, like the learning experience. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in pursuing a career in design?
I think, which is what I'm doing now too. Like, you just have to make designs that you want to show someone to get hired for. So like, let's say you want to be a social media manager and you want to design like the graphics for it. Create like mock graphics or something and then put it out there and then show the person that you like want to be hired by like your dream company, if that's the case. Like, reach out to people on Facebook or something that don't have like that good of a following or a page, and then say, oh, I can do X, Y, and Z, and then here it is, like, look at it, like, this is what I can do for you. Like, that's just the best way to like actually get your foot in the door and actually design for people, because they want, like, design, you have to see something. If you don't have a portfolio right now, you have to literally just make one. Like, just start designing anything and it'll come together.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. And then getting it, like you said, closed mouths don't get fed. So you have to ask people, but you have to have the product to kind of put it in front of them. Super dope. Now, kind of a switch up question. What's one question you have for the host?
What is the best thing and the worst thing that's happened in your entrepreneurship journey?
Oh, okay. Best thing, actually, I would say so many different ways you could go with that. And I always try to take 10 minutes. I would say best thing that's happened is the podcast. I think I know it's what makes me feel like the most into like the business mode. And like, I love talking to other business owners, and it's made me so much better at sales in general. So it's just helped my business like naturally grow. But yeah, I would definitely say the podcast and the networking opportunities. I would say like this thing I'm going out to LA to shoot. I won't talk too much about it, but it's like it's one of those opportunities where I kind of said it was like a dream guest of mine on the podcast. And it was probably, this person was probably a reason I really got back rolling with the business, like in August, just being exposed to kind of the way he thought and like, you know, like, oh, it's actually okay to like think how I think. And I was just in that place where I was kind of questioning it. I just graduated college. Like, I wouldn't say the business was like booming, right? Like you're still, it was the first 3 months I had to just focus on it. And because I'd been so committed to it, I'd felt so different from everyone else. And so now like the podcast, I'm actually getting to interview this guest, like all these like 9 months later, and like go out to LA and do that. So yeah, I would say the best thing, definitely podcast and just like the opportunities it's brought. Worst thing, I would say there's definitely there's a period where you basically have to, like you said, restart. And sometimes it comes when you already feel like you've been like all in. So I have this company that I started at 18, right? Like I was selling stuff for people out of their garage, you know, definitely had its periods where you were in and out of it. And then I felt like it had found some identity in college, but then I realized it was the wrong identity. Like it felt good to like launch like a different show and have my friends involved and like, but I realized like I unfortunately, like by the way that just like that went down, I realized I was like, wait, that's not really you. Like you need to be, if you're going to do this long term, the only way it's sustainable is if I was 100% authentic with it. And I was I had started this new thing. Do I go back to Profit Jack? Like, do I bring Profit Jack back into the scope of everything? For a second, it was just separate to like this new person or something. Yeah, it was exactly. Like, yeah, I was like, so I don't want to say like that was the worst thing because it's beautiful, right? But it's like, I can say that like those feelings of having to, when you realize like you hit a point in your journey where you're just like, okay, this isn't working. I have to cut ties and I might have to go back to square one. So like, it's kind of like the worst thing and the best thing, but yeah, probably the worst thing. And, you know, I've had months where we signed and people would say this would be the worst thing, right? Like I signed, you know, show high retainers, but the service delivery wasn't on point. So I lost all those guys, like half the guys the next month. And so like from a business standpoint, that was probably the worst thing that happened. Like I built all these clients and I lost like 80% of them the next month. And you just have to like, oh, I did this and I did that. So but cool. I think that's the best way to kind of answer that. Now, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? I like asking, I've been hearing this one come up a lot.
I just want to say that I want, yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever gotten that question. Probably that people kept going because it gets better every single time. Like, as long as you keep on going, like, it will get better. Like, even through, like, the toughest days that there are, like, just figure out a way to keep going. But also, like, find a way to get, like, at least 1% better each day. Because, like, that's something that they would always tell me in basketball, too. So, like, bringing that, like, into the real world, like, it really does help to, like, put that in perspective. That do anything in the day to become at least 1% better.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you'll definitely like leave that example of like with the brand like this in the industry in any entrepreneurial journey. It's right. It's like, it's the day by day. It's the, like, you only lose when you quit. Like, exactly. And it's very real because those, like, I couldn't tell you what it's like to be consistent with a business for 5 years. I don't have that experience yet, but I've met people that have been, and the only way I'm going to be like them or like in a similar, you know, realm is if I do that, right? So it's like, it seems like a hard pill to swallow, but I think in reality, a big theme of today's episode is really just playing the long-term game, you know, taking things day by day. It does feel easier when that's your perspective. It's very difficult if, oh yeah, like you want to take things day by day and like appreciate the small wins, but then you don't take the action to get the small wins, so you don't feel it. And then you're trying to do these little things, but you're so thinking big picture the whole time. It's like you weren't present in those moments, so you're not going to feel that, so you're not going to grow.
Yeah, it's also important to like have a plan to like actually do something. Like you have to, like, I believe in like the big goals, but also just like break that up into like tiny little goals that you have continuously, like, you know, checkpoints to keep hitting as you keep getting to that bigger goal.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Any final thoughts, man? I think I really like the how direct this was, and I think we got
Yeah,
to know you really well.
yeah,
Obviously, I think we'll do this again. I know Sam came on twice, so I want to get your
yeah.
guys'
You know, for
perspective a year
sure,
from
for
now,
sure.
maybe a few months from now.
Maybe
Yeah,
everything could change right now because I have varsity jacket collab coming up in a
cool.
couple weeks now, and then I'm preparing for the summer and then fall. So there's gonna be a lot happening, especially because I'm going through like the rebrand right now. So I'm gonna change the entire website. Like everything's gonna be like brand new almost. So
Nice.
there's a
That's
lot planned right
exciting.
now.
And where
Yeah.
can we find you?
At Dario Smith Jr. on Instagram, at Dario Season on TikTok, at God's Tier on Instagram, and then godstier.com.
Okay, awesome. All links will be in the description. Thank you so much, dude. That was a lot
Yeah,
of
thank
fun.
you.